Hello, I'm Femi Oke, and you're in the stream. Today, Israelis' ultra-Orthodox minority are exempt from mandatory army service, and they live off state benefits for the most part. But some Israelis think it's time for them to do a lot more. Our digital producer Malika Bilal is here looking out for your live feedback. Malika, this is a conversation that is happening inside Israel right now, but what is our global community saying about it?
It's definitely involving everyone. And one of the things I'm reading, it looks like people have different concepts of what a democracy should do. On the one hand, you have people saying that Israel should force people to serve equally. And on the other hand, you have people saying, well, it's not very democratic to force someone to do anything, really. Aman Shirani on Facebook is in that group. He says if they're truly a free democracy, then they cannot push their own agenda forcefully onto communities. Now, for those of you at home, if you'd like to participate in our live discussion, make sure you tweet us using hashtag AJStream.
Joining us in the studio, you can see her sitting between myself and Malika Bilal, is Naomi Pace. And Naomi is the Vice President of Public Affairs at the New Israel Fund. That's an organization working to promote democracy and equality for all Israelis. Naomi, it's good to have you back in the stream.
Thank you so much.
You'll hear more from Naomi in just a little while. But first, did you know that we've got an Instagram account? Of course we do. We're a social media show. You can check it out by following us at AJStream or by visiting Instagram.com/AJStream. That's where I am right now. You can look for all of the various pictures that we've got, following some of the stories. You can even submit your own snap. And if we really like it, it might even be chosen as Stream Image of the Week.
Peace, everybody. I'm Raquel Cepeda, author and filmmaker based in New York City, and I'm in the stream.
In Israel, almost every Jewish citizen is expected to serve in the military once they turn 18, with the exception of the Haredim, the ultra-Orthodox. In Hebrew, Haredim means those who tremble before God. They're the fastest growing group in Israel. 1 in 10 Israeli Jews are Haredi, and by 2050, they are projected to make up a quarter of the population. Because they dedicate their life to religious study, most Haredi men do not work. Now, often their wives take up low-wage jobs to support their husbands, so their family's livelihood largely depends on state benefits and donations. Some economists estimate that the Haredim cost the state more than $750 million every year. Many Israelis think it's time for the Haredi community to share all burdens of citizenship, including work and military service, while others are pushing for reforming marriage laws and promoting women's rights. But the Haredi fear that change is happening too quickly and may threaten their religious traditions. So today we ask, should Haredi Jews be required to do more? To help us discuss this, we have Yitzhak Pindrus from Jerusalem, where he is the deputy mayor. In our Google Plus Hangout is Ud Doron, an activist who works with the Be Free Israel organization that focuses on Israeli civil rights and promoting freedom of religion. And Ronit Peskin is an ultra-Orthodox activist working with the Women for the Wall organization, and they're working to preserve the sanctity of the wall. It's good to have everybody here in the stream. Yitzhak, let me start with you. So many reforms are being suggested right now. Do you and the Haredi community feel like you're under attack?
We're very sure about that. We have no doubt. There is, I would say, some kind of political move in Israel to try to make us not legitimate. I mean, I believe that even the people that are involved know that they're not going to change the Haredi community. The Haredi community has their style of life for thousands of years, and our beliefs. We believe that the most important thing for the Jewish nation is to keep our tradition and to keep our culture. And I believe that they also understand that what they're doing now is to trying to make us not legitimate in Israel, which is basically a political move and not something that's going to do any kind of change, what they're trying to say for economy or something like that.
So Ud, in your activism, you're pushing for certain reforms that will affect the Haredi community. And Yitzhak here is saying he feels under attack and you're trying to change their traditions. How do you respond to that?
Well, I can understand the sentiment. I also feel that way sometimes, that not me, obviously, but the Haredi community is under attack. And I can understand that emotion as well. But me personally and the organization that I represent want to think of it as a process. We want to think about an open discourse with the Haredi community because end of the day, the situation as it stands today is just not sustainable. 60% of the ultra-Orthodox are not taking part in the labor force in Israel. 1 in 3 kids in Israel doesn't study math, civics, or English. So the real question, while the military service is something very populist, something that's very sexy, the true question is, the true issue is about integrating the Haredi society into the mainstream society, the secular society of Israel. So we can all, it's for everyone's best interest to do that.
So basically you're saying that you know better than
I think
we do
he
what's
made
best
very
for us?
clear. I mean, he said very clear. What I'm saying is that he's trying to change our culture. Our culture is not to be integrated and to stay in our style of life. And what he's saying is very obvious, is what I opened, and he just said it very clear, that they're trying to change our culture, our way of life. And just for history, for 3,000 years, there's groups that are trying to do that, and nothing changed.
I don't think I'm trying to change you. I think there's a way for the ultra-Orthodox society to be part of the society in which it lives. The Israeli society, that we can all live together. I think there's a way for that without hindering or infringing on your rights, on the changing your.
But if the desire is to actually not integrate, and you're saying you need to integrate, and you're saying it's best for them if they integrate, do you not realize that it's offensive to say I know better for you than how you should be living your life?
I don't think I know better for you. I think I can objectively say that the situation as it stands today is just not practical. It's not sustainable. I mean, pretty soon, how many people are not going to be working in Israel? It's no secret that, like I said, there's 60% of the ultra-Orthodox community not working, and I have to say this is a new thing. I mean,
and there's a reason why they're not working. But there's many that would be working if they were allowed to legally, and I think that they should be allowed legally to work. When you say that
It's
right
interesting
now,
that the
unless
debate
they go
that
to
you two are
army-
having here, we're having that same debate online. I want to get some of them in here because they're chomping at the bit. Mahal says the ultra-Orthodox are one of the poorest populations in Israel. The government should help them rather than turn against them. But on the other hand, we have a video comment here. Naomi, I'm going to give this one to you. It says the Haredim are getting preferential treatment. Have a listen.
I agree with those Israelis that say they should share all the burdens of citizenship. The Israeli state giving preferential treatment to Haredi Jews shows that even within the state of Israel, there is an equal treatment.
Preferential treatment, is that true?
Well, it's not just preferential treatment. I mean, you could argue all day about whether Haredim should serve in the army, and there certainly is an important debate to be had about the workforce. What concerns us most is that the Haredim, who are being presented here as under attack, actually control the whole mechanism of what we would call church and state, or actually synagogue and state in Israel. In other words, where you can be married, who you can be married to, whether you are legitimately considered Jewish, even where you are buried, is under the control of the ultra-Orthodox hegemony. Reform rabbis aren't recognized, conservative rabbis aren't recognized. The rabbis who are paid by the state are all ultra-Orthodox, and they express an ever harsher treatment of women, an ever harsher exclusion of people who are not Jewish from civic and societal life. So although I do agree with the deputy mayor that I understand why Haredim right now feel themselves to be under attack, specifically on the issue of army service, in other ways, they have much more power over everybody else's life.
So Yitzhak, this sounds like an awful lot of resentment. Roni, I will come to you immediately, but let me just ask Yitzhak about this. It sounds like a lot of resentment building up against the community. How do you deal with that? How do you get out of that?
First of all, I think we are, I won't deny, we are under terrible pressure and a very strong attack that makes us feel that we're trying to get a feeling of not being legitimate. but we are with our tradition. We believe in it. We believe that the main goal, I would say, it's a question of priorities. The main goal of the Jewish nation is to keep their tradition, before to keep their state, before to keep their I would say, the finance problems or anything else. The main goal is to keep our tradition, and that's how we went through for 3,000 years all around the world before we came back to Israel. For 2,000 years we were exiled, and we came back because we kept our tradition. So we think that's the most important thing.
3,000 years with women being excluded the way they are now. That's not part of our tradition.
Like I said again, I don't think that women are excluded. I don't think that that's what happened. Not for 2,000 years. We're doing the same thing that's said in the rabbinical books for the last 2,000 years. We're not trying to change it.
Right.
As a matter of fact, the Reform movement is trying to change it. The conservative movement is trying to change it. We're trying not to change those books, and we think that's the most important thing for the Jewish nation.
All right, let's talk about some practicalities.
One thing is for sure.
Let's talk about some practicalities.
But I'm saying the difference is between what I'm trying to say and what my colleagues on this this evening are saying is one thing. They're trying to change me, to change my culture, to change my style of life. I'm not trying to change their style of life. I do think that Judaism has a way of life. I think that in public. I think
Yitzhak,
in public.
Can you just finish up this sentence and then I go to Ud?
The public. Yeah. I think the public rules of Judaism, I believe that our Judaism were for the last thousands of years. But I'm not trying to change anyone's personal life. And what they're trying to do is to change my beliefs and my personal life.
Ud.
That's the opposite of what we're saying. We're not trying to control you. You're trying to control me. You're trying to control the reforms, the Jewish reforms. You're trying to control the conservatives. I respect your ways. I respect the Orthodox stream, but it is what it is. It's another stream of Judaism, and someone's religion is one's private thing, private matter. And here in Israel, well, I'm not saying it's illegal. It's perfectly legal to be conformed, but the chief rabbinate just represents one stream, and that's it. So if I want to be married all over the world right now, they're talking about gay marriage. We're a few steps behind that. We still need the option of civil marriage. And let me just add one more thing. We don't live in ancient history. We live in a democracy, and in that democracy, religion is someone's own matter. Is something to practice the way you want to practice it. So,
if it's a free-for-all when it comes to religion, what makes it a Jewish state? What makes it a Jewish state specifically is respect of tradition and the fact that it's run by a Jewish tradition. And people are upset that there isn't representatives of conservative and reform rabbis in the rabbinate, but that's because there are barely any conservative and reform Jews in Israel. Even the traditional Jews in Israel respect Orthodox ways of life, and when they go to synagogue, they go to an Orthodox shul. The Orthodox synagogue. Even in Tel Aviv, the most secular city in the country, there's only one Reform synagogue. The reason why there isn't representatives of Reform and Conservative in this country, in the rabbinate, is because there isn't that representative in the nation.
No, because the ultra-Orthodox hegemony has done everything it can to delegitimize Reform Judaism, to delegitimize conservative Judaism, and to exclude the vast majority of Israelis who are actually secular.
We're going.
This is a matter of freedom of conscience in the long run. It is not a matter of removing the ability of the Haredim to observe Judaism the way they see fit. It really has to do with not inflicting it on people who do not agree that Judaism is not a living and evolving thing.
All right, let me just stop. Let me just wrap up everybody for 1 second. Every single person, including you, Deputy Mayor. I'm just going to wrap you up for 1 second. So we hear the issue very clearly, but there's some very practical things that are going to happen with the Haredi community growing and with taxpayers having to pay a certain amount to help the Haredi community. Yitzhak, how do you resolve that? That's the sharing the burden issue. How do you resolve that? Let's just be very practical here.
Because we don't. I'll be very practical. The truth of the matter is there is a big part of the Haredi community that are working, a very large part of the Haredi community even serving in the army. We just think there has to be a very big share and part of the Israeli society that are studying the Bible, okay? And the more Haredim there'll be, the more people could go to the army or serve or work anything else. When we are 4 or 5% of the population, and we think that 50% have to be studying the Bible, so the problem is different, and we have to face it different. And again, when someone comes to me and says to me that I can educate my child in my style of life, and it's illegal, and if more than 10% of the population, that's running my life, okay?
Right.
But if saying that the rabbinate is a Jewish rabbinate and an Orthodox rabbinate is a lot less interfering someone's life than not letting me educate my child in the way I believe, and of course when we're talking with such a large percent, I don't know if 10% of the Israelis marry a gay marriage, okay? I don't know if it's 10% of the population, but I know that 10% of the population want to educate their children in a certain lifestyle.
Okay.
I don't think the problem is economy. I think, and the biggest, I would say, the biggest is, we could see it. Because what's happening lately, the last 5 years, 6 years, a lot more Haredim are getting into jobs because of all kinds of things that are happening. A lot more Haredim are getting into the army, and now it started, this whole propaganda against it. They don't really mean army, and they don't really mean jobs. And I agree with the people that are with me this evening. They mean something else. They mean the rabbinate, they mean gay marriage, they mean other things. They don't really mean, right, the economy or the army.
Well, Yitzhak, I think you
And
raised a
honestly,
lot
the
of
army-
issues there. Runit, I want to get to you in a second. I think Yitzhak raised a lot of issues there that our community is picking up on. The first was that Haredim serve the community by studying the Torah, and Frank Shereri on Reddit agrees. She says, from a modern Orthodox perspective, it's true. They're helping their country by studying Torah, but this shouldn't exempt them from serving in the army. And Ronit, this next one, along those same lines, Mikey says, it seems counterintuitive to be separatist while expecting society to support you. Is this having your cake and eating it too?
Me personally, I think if people are worried
First
about
of
the
all-
whole financial issues, what they need to do is allow Haredim to go to work. The fact that Haredim are not allowed to go to work until they're 26 years old and have 3 children means that they're poor and they can't work. But if they're worried that if they want more Haredim paying taxes, let them work. That's all I'm pro
The
letting
reason
everyone
they
work.
can't go to work till they're 26 is because they have an exemption from the army. I mean, you're
And
leaving
I
that
personally
part out,
think- I personally
whereas
think-
everyone else is serving in the army. That is why they have to prove that they legitimately deserve to be sitting in a yeshiva all day and studying Torah. Look, when the state was founded, Ben-Gurion said at that time, there's a saving remnant here that has to study the Torah and hew to the Orthodox tradition. And at that time, the people who were exempt, there were 400 of them. Now we are talking thousands and thousands of young men.
Yeah, but there was
you
only
can't tell me that
600,000
every one of
people in
them is a
Israel.
prodigy in the Torah who has to sit there his entire life and study Torah. And you can't tell me that a democracy can't have a core curriculum in which every child has to be educated to a certain level
How's
in
that
math
freedom
and
of
science
religion?
and
How's that
civics.
freedom?
That's what a
How's that
democracy does.
Hold on one second. I'm just going to go. I'm going to actually call your name so we
David,
can
it
hear
was
you.
50%.
So Ronit, I'm going to call your name and then you speak. This is unusual on the stream, but we have to do it. Ronit.
We're Israelis.
Yeah. Don't we know it today? Ronit.
I warned.
No, I don't. Yes, exactly. That's Yitzhak. Yitzhak warned me before the show. You know, if you tell Israelis just to have a conversation, it's going to be incredibly lively. Thank you for the warning. So everybody, when you hear your name, then you're allowed to speak. Ronit.
Okay, I personally feel that when it comes to the army, I'm actually against forcing anyone to go to the army. I think conscientious objectors should be allowed to not serve in the army. I think the second you have someone serving in an army that they don't support, there's a problem there. I think if they actually made the army be a voluntary army, a professional army that paid people well, then they'd be able to, they don't have to worry about who's serving, who isn't serving. The people that want to serve, and the people that don't want to don't have to. And if people are worried about what do you do in case of a war when we need more soldiers,
Okay.
you give everyone a basic rudimentary training, maybe for like a month long, to learn how to shoot a gun, to learn how to fight, basic training That way, if they actually need people, they have people. But there's so many people sitting around just not in the army, not doing anything. My husband was in the army. He said there's a lot of wasted time there. There's a lot of people that the stereotype is that there's people peeling potatoes in the army. You don't need to take people, stop them from learning Torah to peel potatoes in the army. And I know that's not true, but I know there's also sometimes just 5 secretaries for one person. That's a waste of manpower.
Okay.
You don't need that.
So,
And the Israeli government, the Israeli army has said that they do not want to incorporate Haredim into the workforce. And I personally know more Haredim that have tried to join the army, and the army has said, we don't want you, than people that have decided they don't want to learn.
Right.
That they don't want to join the army.
thanks, Ronit. So, Oud, I don't even know where compromise begins.
I have to say,
One is I have a headache, and 2 is I don't know where compromise begins. Help us here. Help our audience watching this think, wow, they're in trouble in Israel.
I actually think it's a lot better than you think. It sounds to me like we're agreeing on the fact that the Haredim need to be joined into the workforce of Israel. It sounds to me like you mentioned that as a good thing. The fact that a lot more Haredim are now.
I don't see any doubt. No.
So it sounds like
there's no doubt about it. I don't think anyone in the Haredi community. I don't think anyone in the Haredi community thinks different. I think everybody thinks the Haredi have to join. A Haredi person that tries to get a job has a problem in Israel. You know, in Israel, first of all, if you're an Israeli, you get a job. The next after, and there's a Russian. After that, there's an Arab, Ethiopian, and a Haredi. And ask that in every company, right? Those are the rules if you want to get into a job. Unfortunately, that's not the thing. That's what I say. It's a political issue. It's not a real issue.
Hold on
if
1
Haredim
second.
trying to get to work.
Okay, the reason why you got a little bit of talking over
It's not an issue of Haredim trying to get to work.
We have a slight delay with Yitzhak, so he's talking and he doesn't stop soon enough. So do bear with us with that. I would like to get the community back into this conversation.
They're just
Malika.
as confused as many of our viewers may be on where the road to compromise will be. But Naomi, you raised something a little bit earlier, and you said what needs to happen is the separation of synagogue and state. And our community wants to know, is that even possible with the Jewish state of Israel? Mohammed Hamesh says the fact that Israel is built on the basis of being a Jewish state, religious sentiment is an important factor in such a state. How do you even go about doing that? Is that possible?
Well, you know, it's a factor in Israel. It's a factor in many Middle Eastern countries that are struggling on where the line is between religious self-definition and how you set up a democracy that is going to provide equal rights for all. Israel is absolutely not immune to this problem. Now, in the Israeli Declaration of Independence, it makes clear that there is supposed to be freedom of religion, there is supposed to be freedom of conscience. Ben-Gurion and the people who founded the State of Israel did not foresee circumstances in which the ultra-Orthodox rabbinate would have so much power that they would be fighting for buses that have women sitting in the back of the bus, or for partitions that go down the street of a public street and men walk here and women walk there. That is clearly not what was intended by the secular socialist who founded the State of Israel. As far as defining it as a Jewish state, you can do that without a specifically religious choice. You can say that Jewish doesn't just mean Orthodox, or it doesn't mean secular. It means people who feel themselves to be a part of the Jewish people and who have joined in the Israeli enterprise as an expression of Jewish nationhood. It's not necessarily religious belief.
Okay, Ronit, let me ask you this. So I've got Ronit, I've got Yitzhak, I've got Oud as well, and you all want to say something that moves the conversation along, which is why, thank goodness, we have the post show at stream.aljazeera.com. This is a really lively conversation. and it will continue. I know you're going to be on your laptops. Meanwhile, Malika, what have you got on your laptop?
Well, it's continuing, and I'll save the best ones for the post show, stream.aljazeera.com.
That's a tease if ever I heard one. So what are we doing on tomorrow's show? Can we be as energetic as this program? I think so. Brazilians are staging some of the biggest protests the country has seen in decades. And now that they've got their government's attention, will it be enough to bring about change? And what kind of change are they looking for? That's good question, but that's a good question for another show. Until then, we will see you online, stream.aljazeera.com. I think there may be a little bit more energy coming there. See you there. Naomi's still talking. Hello again. You're very welcome to the Streams Online Post Show. We're talking about the tension between Israel's government and Haredi Jews, also known as the ultra-Orthodox. The government has been pushing for more integration policies, more reforms, and the Haredi community has been pushing back. Goodness me, it's more than a hot potato, Yitzhak. I would really love to hear some solutions coming from you, rather than people pushing reforms on the Haredi community. What are the Haredi communities suggesting as a way forward?
First of all, until the last government started, or I would say even the Plessner committee started, changes were being done, and for one reason, like I said before, because the Haredi community has been growing to big enough to have places with jobs, to have enough people to be in the yeshiva, some people going to the army. The Haredi community was growing, and no doubt that what's happening the last couple of months in Israel is going to stop that. Less people are going to go to the army because it's a battle, and when it's a battle, people become more closed. Less people are going to go studying in I would say in universities, which we're opening more and more for Haredi communities, and we see it more on the Haredi newspapers. There's no doubt, as long as what's going on now is going to be going on, and the pressure is going to be going on, things are going to become more tight. And I want to be say one more point. They're talking about the benefits, and I would say that the budgets that the Haredi community is getting. Just to get the idea, 25% of the education today is Haredi education. They're only 4% on the budget. Just to get the idea of what we're talking about. A Haredi child gets 30% if the education, if you put him by a secular child. So the budgets are not really the issue. The issue is basically the political agenda, and people think that they're getting a lot of PR with being against the Haredim, which does very big damage to the country, and it makes the Haredi community being more closed and stronger.
So, can I add something?
Yes, please do, Ronit, and then Ud will come to you.
Okay. So something that people say about Haredim not getting secular education, what they don't realize is in the Haredi schools, they learn, first of all, the boys, until 8th grade, they learn math and they learn science. They don't necessarily learn civics because there's the issues of, with the view that's being taught in the civics book, but they're taught a religious equivalent of civics. And the girls, until 12th grade, they learn math, and then even after 12th grade, many girls go to post-high school education, like often to 13th and 14th and 15th grade. It's not called college, they just call it until like 15th grade or whatever. But they have an education. And the boys, often when after they go to yeshiva until they're 18 or 21 or whatever, when they want to start learning for like a degree or something, they go and within 1 year, they complete all the secular subjects that everyone else learned within like 4 years of high school. So it's not like they're actually not learning secular subjects. For 4 years during high school, boys are not learning secular subjects, but they're learning secular subjects the rest of the time.
Right. So Roni, but I'm hearing that and then I'm going to have to ask you back there in Israel if this is actually true. But I'm hearing that youngsters coming out of Haredi schools are not as advanced as they should be because they're spending so much time studying Torah.
What do you call it then?
No,
Ronit, one type of education is more valuable than another one.
Okay.
No, we're saying that what you want. You said everyone, you and Yitzhak and Naomi and myself, we all agreed that everyone has to work. It's a good thing that more.
No, I didn't say everyone has to work. No. I personally, I'm a stay-at-home mom. I'm happy to be a stay-at-home mother because that's what I want to do. And my husband and I, we make it work. And I think any couple that they decide their wife wants to work and the husband learns, that's their decision. The same way it's my decision to be a stay-at-home mom. It's everyone's decision for their family. And I don't get any government benefits for that. And I'm actually, personally, I'm totally fine with the government taking away any benefits for people that aren't working. I'm really okay with that, as long as they're not trying to force people to do things that they're against.
Okay.
I didn't say anything. I'm not. Again, the discourse is not about forcing people. It's about helping people.
I don't think everyone should work. I think everyone needs to make their own.
You're not letting me finish.
Okay,
No, it's about forcing.
Okay, so Ronit and Yitzhak, we really get very.
It's about forcing.
Okay, Ronit and Yitzhak, we've really got your point very, very strongly. Let me bring in Ud and just allow him to make a point as well, because he allowed you to make your points. Okay.
Yeah.
Ronit particularly. Ud, go ahead.
Thanks. I think, it was evident in what you said that the core studies, the core subjects such as math and English and civic studies, and to a large extent being in the army, which is, you all know, is Israel's melting pot. You can't expect the ultra-Orthodox to join the labor force if they're not as advanced as the secular people. And all I'm saying is that we need to help them by putting them in the army. Yeah, I mean, the army is not an easy place for anyone. Obviously, some people need to be exempt. I agreed with what you said, Ronit, about that. There should be a very regulated system of exemptions for all people, be it gifted athletes, musicians, ultra-Orthodox, whatever. That's fine. Another point that I want to make is that the discussion here is not between Jewish and non-Jewish. I'm 100% Jewish, okay? I might not be Orthodox the way you see it. And Israel is a democracy, and the way I practice my religion is my issue. And if anyone is forcing anyone to follow someone else's lines, is you forcing me.
Okay.
I'm not telling you what to do.
Okay, the community, Malika.
Thank you, Femi. Thank you very much. Ronit, you brought up a lot of things in your last comment, and one of them was on solutions and the way forward. And you recently wrote a piece in the Times of Israel called Army Service and the Haredi Problem, and in which you said that the government should take away funding from any institution that doesn't stick to core curriculum. On that same line, and I want to know if you still agree with that, we have a tweet from Lauren who says, with the Haredim making up 1/4 of the population by 2050, how will their curriculum affect the future of Israel's economy? So in answering that, should the government, as you mentioned in the piece, go ahead and stop funding schools that don't agree with it?
There was a 2-point. We can't do one without the other. I said they could take away the funding as long as they stop people from forcing them to go to the army. Not one without the other. One without the other is what the government's trying to do now. I say one together with the other. You can't force people to go to the army and take away their ability to educate them. You have to do the two together. That's what I said. And you can't pick one without the other.
But it seems that like you're oblivion to the practicalities of it all. I mean, this is a country, and the whole idea of a country, of a state, of a social, of a society is the fact that what you do affects me.
And not only that, there is such a thing as a Jewish people. Everyone else is sitting in Israel, but I'm sitting in Washington. There are millions of American Jews and Jews worldwide who care about Israel, who care about the definition of what is a Jew and who is permitted to be married and who is considered a real rabbi. And when we are excluded, all it does is move American Jews and other Jews outside of Israel further away from loyalty to and support for the Jewish homeland. And that's certainly not a good thing.
That's very true. You talked about the fact that there's not many Reform synagogues.
There's a lot of Orthodox. There's
Yeah, but Israelis were never given any choice. I didn't even know that much about Reform Jews. I didn't know anything about conservative Jews up until I joined Be Free Israel. I was never given a choice about how to practice my Judaism. And if anything, that drew me away from my Judaism. And it was only by joining Be Free Israel and hearing all these voices by a lot of Orthodox women, I'll have you know, a lot of Orthodox people, organizations like Kolech and other organizations that I can't think of right now, we're a very colorful people. I mean, the fact remains that in the Jewish state, not all streams are accepted. It's fine to wed according to Reform laws and conservative laws and Orthodox laws in America, but in a Jewish state, only one stream is accepted.
Okay.
Not to mention the civil option.
Okay, everybody. We've got Uz, we've got Ronit, we've got Yitzhak, we have Naomi. That was a really fascinating conversation, not because anything got done, but just actually to hear the debate and the intensity of the debate. I'm just going to wish you all the best of luck, because I'm not sure how you get forward from this conversation, but I think we've definitely got a little taster of it. Is the community exhausted?
The tweets are still coming in, so I'm going to say no.
Okay, that's great. This conversation is to be continued.
Not at all.
It was very exciting. I have grey hair, so I'm going to move on to the next show. The next show, Brazilians are staging some of the biggest protests the country has seen in decades. And now that they've got their government's attention, will it be enough to bring about change? And what kind of change are they looking for? great question for another day. Until then, we will see you online. Thanks for watching.